A quick capsule.
Sure.
I was with the 1st U.S. Infantry Division, the Big Red one. Made the D-Day landing. And to save a lot of time, we went right across the continent until we met the Russians at the Elbe River. The last major city, and this is important, that we took was Nuremberg, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
We made contact with the Russians and knew that the war was over. We were ordered back to Nuremberg. We had amongst our troops people who had made it to Africa, Sicily, and the invasion, and had enough points to go home. Being an officer, we were called to a big meeting at the Grand Hotel in Nuremberg. A gentleman by the name of General Donovan, known as Wild Bill Donovan, head of the OSS, made a startling statement to all officers, of which I was included. And says, from this day on, you're no longer members of the 1st Division. You're members of the International Military Tribunal, which will be the Nuremberg trial. You will be assigned different duties. This one in charge of the courthouse renovation, this one doing this. I was in charge of billeting and security of the courthouse itself. Being an infantry officer, this is all new to me. So we moved into our present assignments. The first thing we did is arrange billeting, of which Mr. Justice Jackson, a fine, fine gentleman, was assigned a beautiful, almost castle-like deal in Perth.
How was that building selected, do you know?
Well, with my cadre, we scouted all the big homes that used to be occupied by big Nazis. And naturally, with Justice Jackson being the chief prosecutor, we want to make sure he had adequate facilities for his staff that he brought in from Washington, including Mrs. Douglas, his secretary in Washington. We set up billeting for all prominent people. General Taylor, who was an officer in charge of prosecution, along with Justice Jackson.
The house that Jackson ended up at Perth was 33 Lindenstrasse.
That's exactly right.
And it was, I think, formerly owned by folks named Soldan. Do you remember anything about why 33 Lindenstrasse?
It was a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Adequately roomed, easy for security for our men, because he had security at all times. And that was part of my job. Cooperation was fantastic, except for dealing with the Germans themselves, because the Palace of Justice was damaged, you know.
Right.
And the undertaking, which was not my department, we had departments all over the place. We had to set up an adequate PX that contained everything that the Americans could ever put into it. And we had a catering service which was equal to the Waldorf Astoria in New York. I mean, from lobsters and shrimps and everything, plus what the Russians demanded in their food. It was a mess. The Russians were the toughest people.
Why was that?
It was attitude more than anything else. Like, they won the war, and they were tough. One day, I tell an interesting story. I'm going back to check the building, and I hear constant flushing. They had a place that had about 6 toilets, and they were sitting there the first day putting toilet paper down and flushing the toilet because some of them never seen a toilet.
Wow.
Oh, Lord, they were dandies. So they would constantly bring in new people, because they didn't want them to get the idea of what democracy really was. Crazy. The trial started, my office maintained right on the ground floor of the courthouse, so that we set up the security of people coming in that had to be screened constantly, because we were getting all the dignitaries and movie stars because this was the big story. It had the distinction of knowing that I had to stay there as a married man at the time until sentencing. That was where we ended our tour.
Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, our chief prosecutor, spoke for most of us.
If you were to say of these men that they are not guilty, it would be as true to say there has been no war, there are no slain, there have been no crime.
When the judgment was to be announced, baby, we had a cordon from the city of Firth all the way through Nuremberg, allowing people coming in and everything into the city, because we didn't know what the reaction would be even from the German people.
Mm-hmm.
Our problem with the Germans, just to throw an insight, is we needed civilians to do cleanup, manual labor. And naturally the first question they were asked, were you a Nazi? And we didn't find one.